With a little bit of funk and war drums of Africa. Rough, rugged terrain as Africa. I'll make the hardest rock for hard work that Metallica. Banging the ball out of boundaries, mixing it up like a pharmacy.
Say, come on, good vibes, come on, French Joe, come on, Princess, come on, come on,
Let's get it on in the dance floor. Guaranteed. Blow out the lens to your car with a little bit of funk and war drums of Africa. Rough, rugged terrain as Africa. I'll make the hardest rock for hard work that Metallica. Banging the ball out of boundaries, mixing it up like a pharmacy, laying it down like an honorary scholar. Really, will you find an artist like me?
Man, your root is growing, and your vibes is flowing. Got to take it slow, and you see tomorrow.
Saying it's just another day.
You will see tomorrow.
Asiatic, cream of the planet Earth, seasoning every square inch since its birth. Alpha, Omega, last and the first. Build a temple, feed my church. Understanding is a process related to wisdom. Kingdoms are built upon knowledge. This party track right here makes you holler. Number one at the top of the chart, stacking dollars. Shout to the Conquest fam. Bob back to Caribbean with the same brand. Grams exchange hands on streets, merchants trade like the raw warriors. Damn, this great, unconquerable as the tribe of Shabazz. If you recognize true gems, this is a class. I'm a small, humble fella who kick your ass. If you ain't on the dance floor now, come on, dance.
Man, your root is growing, and your vibes is flowing. Yeah, got to take it slow, and you see tomorrow.
Saying it's just another day.
You will see tomorrow. Yeah, you will see tomorrow. Oh yeah.
This is the scribe with the golden smile.
This one dedicated to the disciplined child.
Marry the beat, we walk down the aisle.
One good boy because you're well versatile.
Chillin' with the rhythm and we killin' with the style.
Just feel this on them walk all 100 miles.
Lay it down like a floor full of tiles.
We see when now we suit with the pattern and style.
Man, your root is growing, and your vibes is flowing. Got to take it slow, and you see tomorrow.
Saying it's just another day.
You will see tomorrow. Oh yeah, you will see tomorrow.
Just a little bit of, just a little bit of,
Whoa, oh yeah.
just a little bit of. Saying it's just another day. Just a little bit of,
Yeah, you will see. Oh yeah. Oh, you will see that I'm a dance now.
just a little bit of,
I'm a shake it. Yeah.
just a little bit of,
Do that, do that, yeah.
just a little bit of.
Good evening and welcome to another evening of our Friday Mind Reset Live, where we have the opportunity to come together to discuss, to talk, and to share about the GPS experience and the GPS program. I'm really excited tonight. But before I launch into our guests and bring them each in front of you, I want to really just give a shout out to everyone who's tuned in this evening and explain the reason why we are doing these special series, because it's really an opportunity for me and the team to acknowledge all of those people that have been supporting us over the years and the people that I've been blessed and fortunate enough to be able to serve and support. And so we decided that we would take a time out and just pause for a moment to showcase those people that, as I said, has played a really important part in the journey from as far back as 2013. And so we have two powerful ladies that are going to be sharing the evening with us today. One you're familiar with because she has joined us more recently. But my first guest is someone who I met way back in 2014. And so I'm going to invite her to join us today. And we're going to talk about that journey that she embarked on when she took the GPS program and how her life has transformed or what her life has developed to since then. So sit tight, get ready. We haven't scripted any of these sessions, so it's really a case of you kicking back and just catching the vibes. And if you have any questions, then please feel free when we get to the section for that. We really want to make it interactive. We want to give people the opportunity to ask questions and also to learn from other people's experience. So if that resonates with you, like I said, kick back and let us begin. So without any further ado, I'm going to invite Nisha to join us as I promote her to the panel. Nisha, are you there? I think she is. Okay, are you there, Nisha? Hey. We can see you, but we can't hear you.
Hi, Tony. Can you hear me?
Right, that's more like it.
Excellent.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I am fantastic, looking radiant as you always do.
Thank you.
Nisha Taylor. Wow, I'm smiling because just seeing you on the screen, it's like, wow, it just takes me back down memory lane. And I mean, man, you look different.
Do I, Tony?
Okay, so let's keep it real, 100%. It's going to be a great evening, ladies and gentlemen, because this lady, she keeps it 100% real. Okay, yeah, we can still know you do look different. Did you just make sure that we can see you good? You see what I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen? Like, you're going to get the real
My
deal.
My camera looked a bit smeary, so I just thought maybe if I can see it looking a bit misty, maybe you guys were seeing it misty as well. But
and we don't want that. We don't want to be seeing you misty. We want to be seeing you full in effect.
Oh dear.
Okay, so we're going to have a great time because we don't get to do this often. And so now we do. Let's make the most of it. I really was, first of all, I want to say thank you for taking the time out, because when I called you and said, would you join us? I was really happy when you said yes. And you had to say yes, really, because I would have been mad at you and you don't want that. But it's really good to have you here. Obviously, we've all been on a journey, you and I, since we first met back in 2014, which which you kind of forgot, but it's okay. So why it's really important for me to really have this conversation with you is because we met at a very pivotal point in your life, but it was also a pivotal point in the life of GPS. So, well, you can go first and then I'll do mine. So, where was Nisha back in, well, where did we meet? I'll never forget, we met at an event, didn't we? A relationship event. All right, over to you. Take it away.
Yes, we did. So, it feels like such a long time ago, Tony, but I remember when I met you, and just for the sake of the viewers, I met you at a relationship event, which a gentleman that I met invited me to come because I had a business at the time. So he invited me to come down, and then I brought my staff with me, and we had our stand and we were selling products. And then that's when I met you, Tony. At that stage in my life, it was not I wasn't in a good place at all. I literally felt like, you know, when you're doing life, you feel like there's more to life and you're just not living that. My business was crumbling. It wasn't doing well. My health wasn't good. Finances wasn't good. Everything was just not good when I met you. But as we do in life, we turn up at these events and we dress up and we make out that everything's fine, when underneath my world was just a very dark place at that time.
Wow. I mean, number one, thank you for keeping it so real. And this is why we wanted to have people like yourself here, because I know that you will bring the realness. And I don't know if you remember, but at that event, there was a number of people on the panel saying all kinds of stuff. And do you remember?
Yes, Tony. Yeah. So what happened is that being a spiritual person, myself, I remember they had like a panel of men on the stage, and they were asking some questions about relationships, and the men were responding. And all I knew is that they asked a question, and then a voice came from behind me, which was your voice, and you answered the question. And for the whole night, it was the only question, the only answer that made any type of, like, it had levels to it. It was a deep answer, you know? So from a spiritual point of view, I didn't even know what you looked like. I just heard this voice and I thought, wow, like, for the whole night, this is the only person that has said anything quite significant. So after that had happened, like I said, I didn't know what you looked like because we were all facing the stage and you was, I think, standing up behind somewhere. So after you responded, I just thought, I need to go and find the person who was speaking. I need to go and find the person behind that voice. And that's when I realized it was you. And then you had your stand, and I literally came over and bombarded myself to you. I remember that. Because I came over to you and kind of just introduced myself, barged myself in, and I really, really wanted to speak to you. And I think at the time you was a bit like, you know, as if, hold on a minute, you know?
I ain't used to being like that kind of stuff. But we soon recognized that you had depth to you also. And we had a really good conversation that evening. And then we swapped numbers, and I told you a little bit about what I was doing. But it was, for me, very important and significant because I had just finished writing my book. I just published it and received an award from my book publisher, and was just going out into the world, as it were, you know, with this idea or this vision that I'd been given to share it. So to have and to meet you, and, you know, your response was just, wow. And then I think you bought a copy of the book, and then you read the book.
Yeah.
And then it just started to perpetuate itself from there.
Yeah.
So I think you read the book, and then I told you about the program. And then I remember there was a time, there was a little bit of a period, and I want to pick up on that for a very specific reason, because, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you were thinking about doing the program, and then there was an encounter where there were a couple of people that were trying to discourage you. Was that GPS 1 or was that GPS 2? I can't recall.
That might have been GPS 2, because
Okay, cool.
with GPS 1, what had happened, I think, there was some resistance to me doing the program, because um, I can say it now because now I know, but I just had this kind of this mentality, or like this poverty mindset, like, no, I'm not doing this. And I actually remember something that was quite specific. I remember when we were talking about faith and like mindset and stuff. And I remember you saying to me, you know, talking about faith, and I was like, yes, I've got faith. Like, my faith is way high. You can't tell me nothing about faith. You know, I'm living this faith life. And then there was some significant conversation that we had, and that's when I realized that I don't have faith.
And
Like, my faith is
yeah, when you said that, and we're going to have a great time tonight, because both yourself and Sharon, what I love about you both is the realness in terms of, you know, honesty, because that's what is needed, isn't it? We have to keep it real with ourselves. So here you were, in one instance, thinking, I got faith, and you did have faith, but you realized soon that there were different levels to faith.
absolutely. And one thing I realized is that, so for me, everything started out positive, like, as in my mind, I would be quite positive, but the faith would always be distorted. So it would always end up thinking that something bad was going to come at the end. So it never fully manifested into real faith, because the thinking process was just distorted.
Oh, I love that. I love that, Nisha. Say that again. The thinking
Process was
was,
distorted.
and so what you're saying is that the only way that you were able to come to that realization was when you had moved past that distortion and managed to get a degree of clarity.
Absolutely.
So,
And I remember, sorry to cut you, Tony,
okay.
there's one thing that I've always kept with me since we started this whole journey, and that is lack of clarity causes confusion.
I know you're going
And
to quote me.
you know I'm going to quote that, because my life was full of confusion. I had clarity around nothing. So I was making business partnerships that,
Wow.
you know, we could really go into this.
Yeah,
But my life was full of lack, and lack of clarity was one of them, which meant that I was just living a life that wasn't fulfilling, because I was making bad decisions unbeknown to me. Like, I didn't even know. I just thought I'm just making a decision, but there was no clarity under the decision making.
that's amazing. That is amazing. So, but you definitely and desperately wanted things to change. That much was evident. But in addition to all of that, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, but you also had some resistance from your church.
Yeah, because remember back then, Tony, you know, personal development and anything like that was seen to be against your Christian beliefs, you know.
Right.
So you know, I thank God for my journey, because if you don't listen to what God is telling you directly, other people will take you off of your path, right? And I remember saying this to you, Tony, that back then people were like, oh, she's gone off with the fairies or the devil or whatever they were trying to say, because I was encountering this whole personal development world. Now, the reason why this is such an important part of the story is because I knew that I needed this, because I'd been going to church and there was something missing for me still. So when I had started the process with the coach, the personal development stuff with you, Tony, I started to see where things just wasn't right within myself. But what's important about this story is that 7 years on, everyone's jumping on personal development. Everyone's like, yes, championing this personal development world that I've started 7 years ago.
Not only
So
that,
had I not listened to what God was telling me directly,
Wow.
I would have missed out on my own blessings because of needing that kind of validation and that
Absolutely.
co-signing from other people that didn't understand where
Absolutely.
I was at and my own personal journey.
That is such an incredible point that you make, because I think, and I hope that what people get from this is that we have to learn to have faith in ourselves and our relationship with the Most High, if you have one. Because, as you said, had you not followed through and been strong to your faith and your convictions, who knows where you might have been today. And that is definitely something that people should take note of. What's even more interesting, I know we spoke some time ago, and you were saying to me, the very people that were dismissive and condescending and very accusing to you are the same people who are now coming to you, asking you to lead and to guide and to tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so, I've had a bit of resistance, like I said, from some of my church members. However, I think because of all the work that I've done and the progress that I've made, and now everyone's trying to catch up, I've been asked to do a lot of work and lead out on different areas in the church, and like for programs, and just a lot of different kind of personal development stuff, and bridging,
Wow.
like your religious kind of beliefs with your personal development world as well, because they do tie in. I don't think that they're separate. And it's funny because I even did an interview the other day with one of my pastors, and again, it was so I mentioned that I'm a personal development coach. I did NLP coaching and what's not, and straight away people were in the chat saying, how does that match with your Christian beliefs? So already I was getting that whole resistance online while
Wow.
I'm trying to, and I had to say to them, listen, I said to them, you guys are in church warming benches. I'm sorry to be rude. You're warming benches and you ain't changing no one's life, yeah? God isn't in a box for me. So what you don't understand,
Oh gosh.
Tony, come on.
Yeah,
You know
I
what
know.
I'm like.
I know how you get down.
You know
So
what I'm like
yeah.
in the nicest possible way.
Yeah.
I'm out here doing the work. I'm doing what God commissioned me to do. And I don't have the same limitations that you have. So whatever you think God is for you, that's fine. But God is bigger than that for me. So I'm not just going to sit here and sit in a place of judgment for everybody that's out there doing the work. There's so many space, and this is my space. So
Get out my way.
I don't know what to tell you, basically.
So we kind of jumped the gun, but I mean, it's just because it's so rich with content. So let's just go back a little bit. So here we are. You've made this decision and you are on the journey now. We're doing the 12-week journey. And can you share, because the person that you described who you were before GPS and then the GPS experience, can you share any kind of nuggets that were really the seeds that were planted in your soul that have then blossomed into who you are today? Is there any particular area? Because I mean, your whole life has changed completely.
Yeah, I mean, it's so far. It's funny because it's been such a while. You kind of become your new person, and you become distant to who you was before. So it's
Let me
really
help you out,
interesting.
because I knew you might say
having the conversation. But I do remember when I finished GPS, and I kept saying to people, this was life-changing for me. Like, it was literally life-changing, me doing this program. And the person that I am today, I'm definitely 100% not that person now. I don't even identify with that person.
Wow.
It's so strange,
And I don't know if you remember, but within a few weeks, your countenance was changing, because your own sister was like, what's going on, Nisha? Like, I need to figure out this thing out. And so within a short space of time, you your sister and your mother had actually embarked on the program because they had seen, and really, I think that really shows, it gave us a glimpse of who you were going to become. Because you embodied it and you radiated it, it actually began to draw people to GPS, but also drew people to you. I don't know if you also remember that you were saying on one occasion, and you know, yeah, this is not too deep. So, but even the quality of the people that do you remember?
I knew you was gonna say this. I was waiting for it.
Okay, I'm not going to say anymore. I'm going to hand it over to you because you know where I'm at. So I ain't going to put out your game. So if you feel comfortable, then sharing, then.
And you know what I'm like. I will share. This is what makes me me. I'm very transparent in my journey, which is why people connect with me. So I remember there was a time when I was saying to you, and excuse the term, I was saying, Tony, like I only seem to attract these waste men. That was my language at the time. I don't use that language now. But I was like, I always seem to attract these waste men, like guys that say serious and a particular type. And I remember you said to me, as if to say, like, you are what you attract. And I was like, what? Like, what are you trying to say then? You know, what are you trying to say? You are what you attract. But the truth is that the more I started to understand myself and the more I started to change my mindset and have a different perspective on life and have like raised my spirituality, as I started to raise every aspect through the journey that I'd been on, the quality of men that started to approach me was significantly different. And I just saw it. It was plain to see. It was a different caliber of men.
So, which basically demonstrated that you were radiating a different frequency vibration, and it was resonating with those who were vibrating on that same frequency, so much so that them waste men, they're looking at you and they're thinking, I dare not even try.
No, they wouldn't even, they
know not to.
They know they're wasting their time. It's just, and that's not to say, you know, anyone that's listening, it's not to say that I think I'm better than anybody or anything like that, because that's so not who I am. But it's just to appreciate that sometimes the things that are happening in our life are reflective of what we think about ourselves in that moment. And until you can identify who you really are at a deeper level, your world will consistently look the same. And that's the biggest difference. So because of all the work that I've done now and through the GPS journey and a lot of other things that I've done, it's like my whole world has changed. Like my world has changed.
Wow. That is a deep and profound statement that you're saying 7 years later. And for me, it is truly the blessing to be able to hear that from you, because I know, as we'll get onto in a moment, that you're now out there changing lives. And so we got a ripple effect going on. So here we are, we did GPS 1, and I saw something in you. Like I saw a seed, and I'm like, I don't know if you remember, I'm like, Nisha, you actually can't stop here. We're like, we got to do some more work to really embed this. And we had an honest and open conversation. And then I don't even know what it was that made you decide. But again, I think because you're a prayerful woman, because at that time, definitely I do recall, and this is why for me, your journey is one of the most special ones, because there was now other people who were coming along and trying to discount you or change your mind not to pursue your own vision. But Nisha was like, nah, I know where I'm going. What was that like for you?
Do you know what, Tony? It's so interesting, yeah, because, and maybe some viewers might be able to resonate with this, but see, when you're like a people pleaser, right? like you just seeking validation all the time. You're just a people pleaser. So, you know, you don't really have your own mind because you're too busy wanting somebody else to validate. Yes, go and do that, and go and make that change. Go and do that mission. It's always based on validation and seeking external validation, like someone co-signing. I was a deep people pleaser. So for me, it was like I had to start 100%, Tony, as much as you see me here. I was a people pleaser, like seeking validation all the time.
Okay.
What do you think about this? Do you think I should do that?
Right.
Second guessing myself, you know, but I had to kind of like trust that my God's vision for me was what I was going to fulfill, not man's vision for me, God's vision for me. And you see, once I realized that this is spiritual and that this is about God and me, it changed everything. Because when you're dealing with the highest form of spirituality, there's nothing higher than that. So if God's telling you to do something, the world could be turning left and God tells you to turn right, you need to turn right. And that's the place that I was at. So for me, we're all on different journeys. And this is why I stopped needing external validation, because people can only advise you as far as their own limitations or whatever they've done. So I had to kind of go on my own thing. And with GPS too, the reason why I did it was because, I don't know if you remember, it was mainly around like kind of financial stuff. So we did all the, you know, and it was more like, you know,
I need to get my money out.
Whole poverty mindset, you know. It was all of that. So I had to break away from me kind of having this thing about money, which was quite a big part of my blueprint, like the lack mentality around money. So that's what I think GPS2
was really about.
It was really about me now understanding, okay, you've done the other stuff. How can you now work on your blueprint around money?
Yeah. And it wasn't a case of like you're just trying to get some like that, but it was more deeper than that, because I was able to share with you that money is also energy. And so, as you said, if we want to understand how our life is, just look around us, because your life is the reflection of your life is your life. And so if we don't have money, or if we're short of money, that's a reflection of what's going on in our spirit and in our mind. And you caught onto that. And I just love the way that the thing about you, once you recognize that there's an area or something that you want to learn, you went straight into student mode, you know, and it was beautiful to see the transformation. You know, you would ask questions, something that, again, you know, if you want to, as a viewer, if you want to have a sense of whether you have a poverty mindset or not, just check yourself as to how often do you ask questions, because people who have a poverty mindset, they don't ask questions, you know, but you were asking questions and we were breaking it down. We did the cash flow, and it was, again, in that area of transformation. Over to you. I can
Yeah, I just got to say something about that. If you want to know whether you've got a poverty mindset, do a cash flow thing with Tony. That's what you really need to do, because I hated it. When you were talking about cash flow, I hated it. And that was like the beginning of my realization that, Niche, your relationship with money ain't good, because the fact that you can't even
look at
about it, and you just like, you don't even want to discuss it. That was significant enough for me to know that your money situation ain't right, your relationship with money ain't right. And it's funny, because for anyone that's in business as well, because now I'm in business, I realized that if I didn't fix my relationship with money, even my business wouldn't have progressed to where it is as well. So it's quite a significant part, you know, but
yeah,
I just didn't like that, because at the time I was like, oh, this is
and the thing
cringe.
is, it's great that you say that, because we had a young man who was on last week who was talking about his cash flow, and he did GPS, I think late 2013, and he still uses it today. The thing that people don't realize, which you did realize or come to the realization the hard way, is in that moment when I would ask you to bring out your cash flow, that feeling that you had, that horrible feeling, was the energy check to let you know that that's your relationship with money. Like you hate each other kind of thing. Like you
Which is
don't.
why I didn't have much of it at the time.
Yeah, because that ain't gonna work. And we had to turn that relationship around to understand that it's energy. It's a tool that you use to manifest and execute things that you want to activate in your life. And of course, it took some time, but eventually you began to change your mindset. And more to the point, what I love about the GPS journey is that it doesn't take long for you to get proof and evidence for yourself. Forget what I may say, but when you begin to see things actually happening in your life, then it inspires you, right?
Yeah, because what I will say, Tony, is that I remember on our journey, see, I'm not the easiest person to work with in terms of like, okay, don't
Sorry.
yeah, don't comment on that bit there. But in terms of I'm like I want to know more. I want to know more. I have that desire to know more, but I'm also not somebody that you can just say the sky is blue and I'm going to be like, oh yeah, the sky's blue. Like I'm going to need proof. Like, I need to know what you're saying has depth behind it. So I do remember you saying to me, don't listen to anything that I'm saying. Go and kind of practice it or do things and see
Prove it.
for
Yeah.
yourself, like prove it for yourself. So a lot of the time, that's what I did, and that was what was very profound to me because I'm like,
Tony,
gosh,
you don't really.
like, this is what happened. This is what happened, you know. And so it was always proving itself and manifesting in my life, you know, all the different elements of mindset and how you understand your perspective.
So your money situation transformed, your relationship situation transformed in that you were not only attracting a better quality of man, but just a better quality of associate, of people that you wanted to interact with, because now business people started coming and talking to you. So mentally and emotionally, you changed. Relationships you changed, finances had changed, and your health at the time was also in a bit of a precarious position because you were doing some work that potentially was impacting your health.
Yeah.
But you changed your health. And for me, that was the greatest thing because, well, I'll let you talk about you know, the condition that you had and
Yeah, sure.
how you
So
are.
basically, so just I'm going to quickly overbrief this because I know we've got limited time, but maybe I think it was in my early 20s. Yeah, I got diagnosed with this condition called dermatomyositis. It's a bit like lupus. So what it does is it attacks your own body and your own cells. And in my case, it attacked my lungs. So one of my lungs are slightly scarred. Now, even that in itself, you know, I've had to go through a whole healing process, but the doctors, they're surprised I'm here. Last time I went for a hospital appointment, they looked at me and they said, we expected you to be wheeled in here in a wheelchair. Now, so this is how significant this whole journey is. And everything is so significant because I remember praying and having faith and being like, I don't accept this illness. Like I almost separated it from me. And to this date now, I've got, I'm not on any medication, haven't been for like the last 5 or so years. And, you know, I'm in a different place. But the reason it was significant is because I was doing a job that was directly impacting my health. And this is where it comes back to lack of clarity. So you just do things. And why are you doing it? If something impacts your health, but then again, see, everything connects. You need money. So what are you going to do? I'm going to just continue sabotaging myself for money and get into a routine where I'm sick, I'm getting paid, living from one week to another. It's just like a cycle of sabotage.
Wow.
So that's where like the decisions that I started to make after began to help me holistically. Holistically, it started to help me.
Wow. I mean, Nisha, I'm taken back now as you're speaking. I got goose pimples because I've just realized something. If you remember, you know, I have to say it because it's so profound. It literally has just dawned on me. When we first met, a minute wouldn't go by where you would have to cough.
I really don't even want to talk about it because I feel like I'm going to do it now. Because you
No,
said
but
it, but we've been
yeah,
speaking.
but
How long?
we have to give thanks to the Most High because it was one of the things that I was adamant. I prayed that that something would occur to help. You've been talking for 30 minutes. You haven't coughed once, even if you got. Do you understand? I mean, that could never have happened. That just wasn't happening. And the when you were in that state, the cough was coming from such a deep place. It was all, I felt like it was ripping your lungs. And here we
Yeah.
are today.
Yeah.
So, you know, I thank God for the transformation that has occurred. Because for me, where there's health, then there's life. There's no health, then your health is your true wealth. So the fact that I'm like, God, I've only just realized this.
Yeah,
So
because for anyone that's watching, and I'm probably going to cough now because it's so psychological.
no, no.
When I started, I couldn't even have a whole sentence without getting into a fit of coughing because of the lungs, the state my lungs were in. So you can see how everything, just everything contributes to everything.
Yeah, I mean, you're so right. And it's almost unbelievable, people, but this is why I wanted to invite you because I'm not a doctor. And so how does this happen? Well, the only way we can explain it is, as you said, it is a holistic approach. Mind, body, soul, relationships, money, all of the 5 pillars. And when you are serious about honoring yourself in every aspect of those 5 pillars, each one almost eavesdrops on the other. And so now you get a cycle. And rather than, as you mentioned before, you having this perpetual cycle of self-sabotage, the reverse now happens. You get this perpetual cycle of moving forward, stepping up, things are moving, and it's just an upward spiral. You feel me?
I feel you. 100%.
Wow. Because then your money changed, you got your money up, you then started telling me, and this is the beauty, the most beautiful part. You know, I saw something in you, and it was just about helping you to see something in you. And then you said to me, Tony, I want to do this work. I want to help people. I want to support people. I want to empower people. You still had challenges where the 9 to 5 or the money income was, but you were a woman who was determined and you changed it. You changed it because one day you said to me, Tony, I'm going to do this. I'm going to quit my work and focus on this. And I have to say this because, Nisha, we don't have enough people in our community that have that kind of conviction. So I'm saying in honor of you that you here I was at the very beginning of your journey talking to you about different levels of faith. And then within a year, I'm seeing this same woman begin to demonstrate bad boy levels of faith. That even I'm having to say, all right, Nisha, let's just make sure that the money's coming in. But you're like, no. So tell us about that step of faith and where it has led you.
So I was working in law, as you know, Tony. Working in a law firm, and I wasn't fulfilled in my job. I was getting much more fulfillment doing the work. At one point, I was the GPS ambassador. Do you remember?
Yes, of course.
I was coming around to events with you and doing a lot of work with you. I had a lot of church things that I did. So I've been a speaker at church, preacher. So all that kind of work is where my heart was at, you know. And I remember sitting in work one day and I just said, it is so funny, Tony. I remember like thinking these pastors and preachers are out here doing the work that they love and getting paid for it and whatnot. And I didn't know that I could do the same thing. I didn't know that that would even exist. So this whole journey also allowed me to realize that I can live my purpose. I almost don't think if I went on this journey, I wouldn't have known that I can live my purpose and get paid for it. I would have probably thought that I had to stay in my corporate life forever and just do this stuff on the side and do it in my spare time. But this whole journey also gave me the courage to say, you know what? I need to make a plan and I need to get out of this workplace. And I tell you why, because when the workplace was suppressing my energy, I'm telling you, like, it was suppressing my energy, yeah, that whole environment.
Yeah.
And it was crushing my creativity. So I couldn't be effective as I wanted to be because there was this conflict in my world in terms of what my purpose is and what I'm doing. So one day I remember it was 2018, I think it was. And don't get me wrong, I just want the viewers to know this because I like to keep it real. At one point, I left and then I went back part-time. And then after that part-time, I was like, no, you can't do this yo-yoing thing. You got to go. So I left fully. So I'm just saying that because sometimes people think, oh, you just left and it was all, no. Like I had that little battle where I knew what I had to do. So I left full-time, left. Then I went back part-time. But then after that part-time, I said, no, you got to take that jump. So that's what I did, Tony. And I think that it was the best thing that I did. Like, not only because my earning potential got more, but the impact that I have on people became more. I'm living a much more fulfilled life because I'm living for purpose. Like, I know what my mission is. I know who I am. I know why God called me to this earth. And I'm now being able to walk in that without compromising it, you know?
So just for the sake of clarity, what is it? Are you saying that you are now in business for yourself, doing your own thing?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Okay. No, because people, remember, I know you, we know the journey, but it's for some, they would be like, okay, because I want them to, it's possible.
It
And
is
that's
possible. It 100% is so possible.
wow.
But it's like you have to do the journey. You
Yeah.
see, in life, sometimes you can't skip the journey. Sometimes people want the results, but they don't want to do the journey. It just doesn't work like that. You have to do the journey in
100.
order to get to that place where you can then live how you're supposed to live. But there is a journey. And I think that sometimes I realize that nothing in my life happens for accident. Like, Tony, I always say this to you. I don't care what anybody says. I will always be thankful to you. I will always have gratitude to you because you was the person that God sent to me at a time in my life when I needed you. And you came and we did what we had to do. And it was like a planting seed, like a flower that was planted and it's just grown. And, you know, the thing about me is you know how I am, Tony. Like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So this journey wasn't by accident. I didn't meet you by accident. It definitely had a purpose. And it's only got better and better and better along the journey, you know? So much realizations, so much self-seeking, digging deep, uncomfortable conversations, money talks, poverty mindset, prosperity mindset, everything.
Yeah.
It's all played a part in the journey that I've been on, and I've been able to continue to escalate
Well, I
to
would
this
say,
point.
the word I would choose is not escalate. What I would choose, the word would be blossom. 'Cause
Blossom, that's a nice word. Blossom.
seeing how you have, it literally has been like a seed is planted, and I've been able to watch my girl from afar and see how you're blossoming, changing people's lives. I mean, it's amazing because you can engage with people, some people that I perhaps could never have engaged with. And for me, I can look and say, there goes my girl. She's just tearing it up, you know, making women in particular, because I know that you have a very big heart for women, having that conversation where a brother can't really have those kind of conversations. And it's just awesome to see. So I want to thank you for saying yes to life, because if you didn't, nothing could have happened. And for me, it's just a joy that you have been able to share in such a real and transparent way how a sister can decide, make a decision. I'm going to change my life and nothing is going to get in my way. And here you are today. So I don't want you to go. I want you to pause for a moment. I'm going to bring Sharon on screen. Then I'm going to have a conversation with her. And then I'd like to bring you both on screen so we can have conversations and questions and answers and take it to the next level. Is that cool?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm enjoying the show, so I'll stay.
Okay, you better. Okay, so next I'm going to invite Sharon to join us. Wow, what a fantastic conversation that we've had with Nisha. So Nisha, I'd like Sharon to have the spotlight. So if you can
What do I do, leave?
No, don't leave, but just
Oh,
keep the camera off. If you can. There you go. Beautiful.
thank you. And I'm going to take my mic off as well.
Okay. All right. And we'll have you back in a moment. Sharon,
Hi,
how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
Yeah. Wasn't that awesome just hearing
It's brilliant,
Nisha?
absolutely
Yeah.
brilliant
Yeah.
to hear somebody else's journey from start to the process, what she went through, and yeah, definitely, obviously the continuing growth. It's wonderful.
And it's particularly relevant to you because you're hearing someone who's gone before you, but there's a lot of commonality in her story and your story, right? Because you equally had a major transformation in that it seems to me, and I may be mistaken, so if I am, please correct me, that it has opened up a path, a new path to you that you, like Nisha, are intent on pursuing. I may be mistaken, so please.
No, true, very true. I just feel that within our community, there isn't enough care for each other, unfortunately, or even being able to express it freely without fear of judgment. And what I've gone through is I've let that go. It really doesn't matter. People will say whatever it is that they have to say, similar to what Nisha was saying.
Yeah.
But that shouldn't stop you. You need to work, you need to operate in your truth.
So I wonder, I mean, maybe, you know, when Nisha comes back, I'll ask the question also, but why is it that it would seem that some people in our community, we are our own worst enemy?
I think for me, I really feel it just runs very deep. It's centuries old. It's instilled within us, but it goes from generation to generation. Yeah, that's a lot to unpick. It really is a lot to unpick.
Yeah, but my thing is, Sharon, okay, if I've got those hang-ups, well, let me mind my business and unpick that stuff. I ain't got no business coming to you and you're trying to get out of that situation. And I'll be telling you, oh, don't do that. Stick around with me. Let's stay here in the ghetto. Like, what is that?
Well, that's the thing, though, really, because as you said, a lot of what Nisha said definitely did resonate with me. But I I think sometimes when people are saying, no, hang back, don't step forward, it's not always coming from a place of that they don't want you to progress. I think they just don't know where you're at, and they can't quite connect with what you're saying. So you have to do what you need to do for your growth. And hopefully, well, as it has been also explained or touched upon, if they see you blossom, then maybe they'll want a little bit of that for themselves, and can see the what they can see is the evidence of what it can bring. Because some people, because there was a lot of faith that you guys were talking about, and sometimes it's difficult for some to just blindly step forward in faith almost, even though there's a lot of talk about it. But what is the reality of it? If you can't see something tangible and all you're doing is going from your heart's desire, what are you going to do? You can't explain that to some people.
Absolutely. And I think you're so right. And for me, I have identified that there are two kinds of people: those people who are connected with their head and their heart, and those who are not. And unfortunately, we are going to see a continuation of that separation in society, where there are those people who have the faith, who have the ability, and you don't need a lot of faith. It's the thing that is important to state. You don't need a lot of faith, but you need to activate faith, and you need to do it consciously. Because otherwise, if you don't, then you get into that cycle that Nisha described, where, okay, you want to have a bit of faith, but that poverty mindset will always ask those questions that will take you out of the game before you even start. So you can never win.
Indeed. Yeah. So this is what you have to be true to yourself, and hope, in time to come, maybe they will see whatever it is, or it will, their minds will open up, and in time to come, they'll start going on their journey, if that's what they see.
Well, if they don't, I mean, people like you are going to hit them in the face with your blossoming, because, I mean, you have equally blossomed into a whole different kind of, Sharon, I was saying to you earlier, I think we spoke sometime this week, and she's like, don't go there, Tony, but we keep it real. But when I first met you some 2.5 years ago, and the person that I now see in front of me, it's like night and day. Energetically, equally, it's just a new blossoming. I can tell you want to say a few words on that.
Well, all I would say is that I'm just walking lighter. I always felt, actually, that I was in my truth. I really did feel that way back when, before I started the GPS. I genuinely did feel that. So I can resonate with a lot of people that feel they're operating in their space and their place. And I'm not questioning that at all. All I would say is I knew that at a certain time in my life, things just weren't where they could be, should be, or where I wanted or desired them to be. So I needed to do something. And it was when I owned that and accepted that change needed to happen, it did. Wow. It did. I know it sounds quite simple, but it really did. And I think when you're operating from that space of truth, reality, and honesty, you can evolve. You really can.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was a decision, meaning that there were things going on in your life, and you had to get to a point where you're looking and surveying your world, and you're not liking what you see.
No. no, not at all, not at all. I mean, I was operational. I was still moving forward. I was still
I
functioning.
love that. That sounds like a computer program. I was still operating.
You know, at top speed. But yeah, within it wasn't working. It wasn't where I needed to be. I didn't feel whole. I didn't feel that I was being my best self, if you like. I knew there was more to me. And so that's what I was seeking.
Wow.
I needed to find.
Wow. That's so deep. And so once you reached that point where you were determined to seek, as in Matthew 7:7, ask and seek and knock and be persistent. Only when you got to that energetic state that things happen. And of course, we were connecting and communicating with you on that particular day when we sent out an email to you on this particular day.
Absolutely. And that's what started the ball rolling. And what is funny about that actually is because, as I said, you need to be ready to step forward. So I'd received notification previously, but it was on this particular occasion that I stopped. I took in the words and I said, no, I need to take action.
Well, we've been sending you emails for over a year, just to let you know, like pretty much every other, just saying, every other week for about 12, 18 months, Sharon.
Mm-hmm.
Sharon,
Yeah.
not interested. No, but
well, it wasn't that there was disinterest. What it was is that, in my head, I didn't have the time. That wasn't a priority. It wasn't my focus.
But it's interesting, those two words that you just made, those two words that you just shared are key. Priority. Absolutely. And focus.
Yeah.
That's all that needs to change.
That's it. Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you're not worth giving time or focus to, then what does that say?
So what you're saying is that we as individuals have to recognize that we should be the number one priority, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so the moment you did that and gave attention, you read the contents of the bulletin that we sent out, and
then I joined the group. I listened to the webinar. I joined the group. A lot of what was said made total sense, similar to what Nisha was saying. It resonated with me. Stepped forward, took action, absolutely, and did the GPS, got your book.
But it's important.
Yet, Tony, I don't believe. But you'll work on that.
Say that again?
I said I got the book, but I don't believe you've got a T-shirt yet.
Okay. But what's really important to stress, again, to celebrate you and what you did. And this is why we're showcasing, because I don't take it for granted. Like, I've been in this space for almost 30 years. And so it's not everyone that takes action. It's not everyone who knows that they have to do something about it. They know that situation is not good. But very few people, I'm talking about less than 10%, will hear and take action. So when someone does take action and then they get the results, this is why we have to do these showcases, particularly, as you know, where our sisters are concerned. And I get it. I understand that women are coming from a place where they may have been mistreated through society and all manner of things, but it still is about taking personal responsibility.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because we still have options. We still can choose. We don't have to fully immerse ourselves in what is being presented to us. We are individuals. I mean, that's how I would see it. I mean, I would guess that some people genuinely feel they don't have that, and maybe due to some circumstances, life may present itself as though they really haven't got options, they haven't got alternatives. But I would say, I can only speak for myself, is that I felt that where I currently was, I had to make a difference. I had to do something other than what I was currently doing and continue to do for quite a while. So yeah, I had to make that change for myself.
It sounds like it was pretty close to the edge. Like you knew it was pretty close to the edge in terms
Yeah,
of where you were at.
yeah,
And
yeah.
what's amazing, well, and what's beautiful is the change, the transformation began so quickly. You know, I must confess that I love this work that I do because I get the chance to literally see God show up in situations. And that's all I can put it down to, because I know it's not me. But when you get to that point where you say, you know what, I need some intervention here. I need some guidance, some direction. And we work together. Like you said earlier on, that what I have seen, you are absolutely right, that what's lacking in our community is that spirit of care. You see, when we come together, when we do our sessions and there's a genuine care, like I want to see you out of that situation, that position that you're in, and you want it also. And we can have that honest and open conversation.
Yeah.
And you can just decide to let go of all of that baggage that wasn't serving you, because I'm able to contextualize it for you in a way that perhaps you didn't see it that way. And it doesn't dishonor you. It's just about, listen, you don't know what you don't know until someone shows you a different way. But then to see within days transformation, and it's not like when you go to certain personal development seminars where, you know, they give you all the hype and you come out and you feel like you're going to change the world that day, but then 2 days later you're back to your old way. This is something that has continued to grow. And just like I mentioned with Nisha, yours has been a blossoming and continues to be a blossoming experience. I mean, we're talking now about you stepping into business and seeing how we can support you in your vision. And this is why I thought it was particularly cool to have Nisha here as well, because it's, I'm sure, inspirational for you also.
Yes, absolutely. Hearing somebody else who's done it, who's been there, and continued, come out the other side, face the challenges, but honored herself, and is where she currently is now, definitely, and still going forward. So yeah,
almost definitely.
The others, and celebrate others, actually.
Yes.
And that is the beauty of really genuinely caring about other people and not just the self. So when we say focus on yourself, it's not from a place of selfishness.
No.
It is a place of love. Because I mean, I know from myself, I was definitely, so Nisha described it as being a people pleaser, but I was definitely a giver. And I think a lot of women generally do. We just constantly giving to others and holding all of those various roles, whatever it is that they take to facilitate. It's generally for others a lot of the time, and I think sometimes that's where a lot of misplaced hurt or anguish or frustration can come from. And we can do that without knowing what's happening, but we emanate that from that place of dissatisfaction, if you like, and not being fulfilled.
Wow. And then, of course, it gets to a point, then you feel like you've been used and abused because there's nothing left for you.
You do. Yeah. You definitely, you feel like you're just you're operating for the service of others.
Wow.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Couldn't put
So
it- yeah. And so what we're now showing and proving that it doesn't have to be like that. You can actually, and you should give to yourself first, because the truth is you can only give what you have. And so if you don't have love for yourself, how can you give those things to others?
yeah, definitely. And the love that we're speaking about, it's not just about putting on an outfit and looking sharp or anything like that. It's really about self-care, self-nourishment, taking a moment to breathe for yourself, reflect on whatever it is that your heart's desires are as well. It's not just about the external,
Yeah.
which I think a lot of women project very well, very well.
Okay, so I love the fact that you're going there, because we are gonna start here, and I'm gonna bring Nisha in to add to this, because as a woman, you know that many of my sisters have perfected that external
Absolutely.
imagery,
Their armor.
their armor,
Yeah.
and it looks good, but it's not serving them. It's not honoring. And my question is, why? What's the point if you're feeling all broken inside?
Well, that's where you need to, that's where the focus needs to be on you genuinely. And you need to seek that fulfillment from within to then show it out without, if you like, outwardly. And that's what's missing with a lot of females, I would say, predominantly.
But would you say then it's pretty much a black and white situation, in the sense that unless someone is vibrating on your frequency and hears what you're saying, they'll be listening to you and saying, what's she talking about? I'm good. Like Nisha said, before we met, she was like, I got this faith together. And that is the challenge, right?
What I would say to those people is, I believe you believe what you're saying. So you have to question yourself. You have to be true to yourself. That's the whole focus. I believe they believe what they're saying. I do. Because if you're looking at a reflection in a mirror, you know that's not the whole of what your sum total of all your parts. You know that. We're all multi-layered. And if all we are is a shell, then what does that say? We're more than that. We're much more than that. And there's so much beauty and care and generosity from within. It's just that I feel with a lot of people, because of all the hurts, frustration, etc., it just is not displayed in a positive fashion. Oh gosh, who's there?
I think we've lost Tony. So we'll probably have to wait for him to come back in, I guess.
Yeah. Oh dear, because it's gone 9. They usually finish at 9 o'clock, I think, basically.
Right. Okay, Tony's back, so
Oh dear.
Tony, you're on mute. We can't hear you.
Okay. All right. Well, listen,
Thank
thank you so much for holding the fort, Nisha. I don't know what happened. We had a bit of a technical, but why don't we use this opportunity? I mean, I didn't catch the end of what you were saying. But Nisha, why don't you join us and let's have some questions and answers. But Sharon, could you just repeat for my sake the statement that you was making?
So at the end, what I was basically saying is that we are more than what we see in the mirror. We're all multifaceted, and I feel we need to honor our whole selves, not just the perfected exterior that we present to the world.
Wow. Well, it is so refreshing. I waited a long time to hear Sister say that. And Nisha, you're nodding your head in agreement. So what's your take on that?
I completely agree. I think that a lot of emphasis is on the external, but it has to be from the inside out. And to be fair, it doesn't matter what you look like. If you're internally satisfied and happy and dealing with the internal, you're going to shine on the outside.
Absolutely.
You have to do way much more work when you're doing it the other way around.
Wow. Say that again. You have to what?
You have to do so much more work when you're doing it the other way around, as in focusing on the external and not the internal.
Well, I asked you to say it again because I believe sisters need to hear that. Many a sister need to hear that. Wow, that is so deep. But like was said earlier on, I think it was you that said it, Sharon. I'm not sure who, but the fact that particularly in our communities, people are carrying the legacy of generational hurts and pains.
Yeah.
That often is, they don't even realize that they're literally acting out stuff that has come from generations.
Yeah.
And there lies the challenge. But it does look like, and I'd like your take on this, each of you, but it does look like there is definitely something happening in the atmosphere, the rise of the feminine energy, where there are women like yourself who are growing in numbers, who are keeping it real, saying it like it is, and having those difficult conversations, particularly with other sisters.
Yeah, I personally feel that when you start to walk in your truth and you start to speak it from a place of non-judgment, and you're not boasting about anything, you're just being your authentic self. I feel people vibe off of that, really, and they can sense that you're just being genuine, and you're open, you're listening to where it is that they're coming from. And I think just opening dialogue, just having that general dialogue is a starting point for many.
Yeah.
Because I think they just have, a lot of people haven't been listened to. They haven't had that, they haven't had that option to have that moment of breath. They've just been functioning.
Yeah. Nisha, you're nodding your head in agreement. What would you like to add to that?
Yeah, so I love what Sharon said, because actually Sharon uses one of the lines that I always use, and that is to stand in your truth. I think that sometimes women are afraid to stand in their truth because of past experiences that are now defining who they believe they are now.
Yeah.
And I can say that because that's my journey. My past was defining who I was, and I was scared to stand in my truth because, you know, it's not a nice place, basically. So I really like what Sharon said, stand in your truth. When you can stand in your truth, it's almost like that's the starting point of everything starting to make sense and being able to deal with it face on, because the worst thing is denial. And I think one of the things that we do very well is we wear this mask, and we think if we put this mask on, everything else is going to disappear. But that's not how it works. The work has to be done. It has to be done.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow. I'm kind of wowing, because it is so refreshing to hear two sisters, echoing the same. I mean, you're using different words and different language, but you're both coming from your own real experience. And I'm a firm believer that sometimes the best way to help someone is to show them. And so this is why it's a privilege for us to have you both here this evening, because by your story, by you sharing, by your openness, it's undeniable. It is what it is. It's whether the person wants to be convicted into their truth, because that's what you guys will do. Either someone will hear you and they will hear you, or you will bother them so much that they would run the other way.
Yeah, that's always a possibility. It really is. But this is why I stress that it's really a non-judgmental journey. Yes, I'm not going to say it wasn't, you know, there were no emotions, because there was a whole wave, a whole wealth of emotion that you go through. But when you come out the other side, that's the thing. When you come out the other side, that's it. Shoulders are back, you're breathing deeply, you're standing strong. You really are, you know, and you're emanating that, as you've described a couple of times. You really are emanating that.
Yeah.
And you can't play at this. You can't pretend that this is what you're doing. You have to really do it. You have to do the work, as Nisha said. You have to do the work.
Yeah. And, you know, sorry, Nisha.
Yeah, no, I was just going to emphasize what Sharon was saying about the non-judgmental, because you see, the thing is that growing up, we become judgmental to people, and then that judgment turns back on ourselves at some stage, and it becomes uncomfortable, because the very things that you were being judgmental about, you're now having to deal with them yourself.
Yeah.
Now, how can you deal with them yourself when you've been so judgmental to other people that have experienced certain things?
Absolutely.
So it has to be from a non-judgmental space. And I think women like myself and Sharon that can stand in our truth and share our story, that opens the door for non-judgmental, because that transparency allows people to realize that, listen, my story is your story. Your story is my story.
It's so much commonality between us all. There really is. And just to extend on what you've said, Nisha, is that sometimes I think it's so easy to make that assessment of another. But who are you? Do you know what I mean? Well, you know, none of oh boy, you could talk about this all night, you know.
We could talk about it all night, honestly. But it's really important that I think what people need to understand is that this isn't about anybody else, it's about you.
Absolutely.
It is only about you and your self-realization and where you see yourself wanting to be.
Absolutely.
You know, and this is why an important thing for me was to let go of external validation and all of that, because that can hold you back sometimes.
Yeah.
And the minute you care less about what other people think about you and all of these other judgmental stuff, is the moment that you can then begin to work on yourself, because otherwise you're so focused on what will she think, what will he think, how will that look on me. My life maybe doesn't represent what people think it represents from the outside, you know. So
wow. I mean,
very true.
Very, very true and very powerful. And as I was listening to both of you, one of the things that I've noticed, and you probably noticed it as well, Nisha, certainly in the last few years, is that we need to take care of our business, because in this personal development space, there are very few that understand deeply and the legacy of what people of color are dealing with. And if you look in the personal development space, it's almost as if we've been sidelined.
Yeah.
Like no one is really, and I get it, because in order for me to be able to help you, I can only do that if I have the empathy, if I have the understanding culturally, historically of what you've gone through. But what that means is, as more and more people are realizing that personal development is a necessity, it's a must, then who's taking care of our
Yeah.
community?
Yeah, absolutely. Our community. Very true. Very true.
No one.
Yeah.
And, you know, it is something I've noticed, but I also want to say that for people like yourselves, Sharon and Nisha, it's also so refreshing because it is a blessing at the same time. What do I mean by that? Because unless you have the historical reference and understanding of the legacy, then there's a whole market, there's a whole niche that is untapped that needs support. And these are the very communities who, up until now, it's all been about keeping the church seats warm. And they're now coming to realize that actually, I think there's a bit more that's required. And that's what for me is so refreshing, because it means that that statement, and I think it's in Matthew 9:37, where it talks about, you know, the laborers are few. You know, the harvest is plenty, but the laborers are few.
Mhm.
And so that has two meanings. One, it means, like you've done, Nisha, there's a lot of work to be done. But the flip side is, if you are one of those workers and you do the work, when the time comes and that harvest is yours, baby, you'll be smiling, because there'll only be a few. Niche, you're in agreement?
Yeah, definitely, Tony. And I think this is why, you know, we do things because we're passionate about it. This isn't even like a show thing. It isn't, because remember, this whole industry has become very showy and self-seeking. Okay. And the difference is that I genuinely care about people. I genuinely care about women overcoming their barriers, their traumas, their self-doubt, their sabotages. I genuinely care. So if you never shine the spotlight on me, I'm still going to do the work. And that's the difference within, I believe, what we do and what others are doing. It's become very much like a show. The depth isn't there. And that's why when you say the laborers are few, because, you know, it's like the Bible says, many are called, but few are chosen. There's a whole meaning behind that as well. Many are called, but few are chosen. So you have to understand as well, when you're chosen to do a particular work, it's only you can do it.
Absolutely.
You know, we get into a world where it becomes a lot of like business. So when it's more like business, you look at your competition, you look at who's going to get more clients, you look at all this stuff. But when you're coming from a spiritual point, you are chosen.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you say that, and I love that, because when you often hear the stories of people who were chosen, they didn't want to do it. Like, they weren't pushing themselves up because they know it's work. I mean, what you went through, Nisha, you put yourself through work. Sharon, equally. But it comes a point when you're chosen, it's humbling, because you see that if it wasn't for the grace of the Most High, you know where you would still be. And it's that realization that makes you feel like, how can I try to show my gratitude to the Most High?
And I just wanted to say something as well to something that Sharon said about, you know, and I don't know if I'm getting this in the right context, but you're probably like the go-to person that everybody goes to when they need something, when they need advice, when they need help, when they need support, and you become that person. And I remember there was a time when I kind of felt like, no, I don't want to be that person, because like, everyone's coming to, who have I got to go to, you know? And that resentment. And then I had to kind of bring myself back and say, Niche, this is it. This is why people are drawn to you. So you can't rebuke the thing that is the reason you've been calling. You know?
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
there is times where you kind of feel like, well, I'm here for everybody, but where's everyone for me?
Well, yeah.
You
And
know?
this is why it's one of the ways and reasons why I'm always encouraging people, because that we all need somebody, and most mentors who are really doing their work have a mentor. My business mentor, he's sadly passed last year, but he was 70, and he was saying to me he would still go to mastermind sessions where he'd be the youngest person there, and he was, we're talking about people in their 80s and 90s, and he'd be sitting and listening, and he's a billionaire. So that was for me a really demonstrative thing that we all need to have our energy charged and supported, So it's a good point that you've made, Nisha, and you're smiling, so I know something's coming, right?
No. I'm just reflecting. I'm actually just thinking about it.
Yeah,
You know.
it's important because when we've got things set up in the way that they need to be, then you get into this cycle where you're able to give, but you're giving from your overflow because you are being filled constantly. You're being rejuvenated. The energy of the Most High is literally flowing through you. Then you're giving from your overflow, and you don't feel that I can't do this until, well, you did get some people who like are vampires out here, and then you just have to see them for what they are, and know how to handle them. But for the most part, what is really refreshing is that with each passing day, and especially since COVID-19, we're now finding ourselves in a zone where there are more people like you surfacing, realizing that their life has to have meaning, their life has to be purposeful. And that is great because it's those people, I believe, that's going to change the world. It's those people that are going to save the world. We can see where left to man's devices, where they're going to take us. And I believe that the Most High is saying, okay, I see where you want to go, but I'm going to send my people and we're going to take it somewhere else. So we haven't even given people an opportunity to ask any questions because we've just been in it. But I think, and I'm mindful of time, but I think, can we just see if there's a couple of questions? Because some people may have been sitting, waiting for that opportunity. So if you have any questions, please feel free. And here comes one straight away. Okay, so it's a comment actually. What an excellent discussion. Yep, it is, and it's something that I've always wanted to do, and I think this is really good. We're going to put it out because as far back as 2006, when I was running my not-for-profit organization, we used to have an event called Real Talk, and that's when I first saw that actually that is what we need in our community, a safe space to have conversations without judgment, as you ladies have said, because it stirs the soul. I've seen it in young people and how it can bring about an openness and a truth and an honesty. So it's great. I mean, adults are usually a bit slower, so it's taken us about maybe 10 years later to get to that space. But if this is an illustration and a demonstration of what can come out of conversations like this, where women are speaking openly and having that dialogue, where it is not just exclusively women, because that is also part of the problem, that we have to understand each other better, men and women, men understanding what a woman constitutes. And I mean a woman. And unfortunately, it's a blessing and a curse in the sense that there are some women out there masquerading as women, and then they are not operating as you said. They're wearing the armor, so they look like you, and so the brothers have to be able to find a way to decipher, okay, who's wearing the armor, meaning they're coming to do battle with me, or who is radiating their essence, because they both look the same. And so there lies the challenge for men. We have to cultivate that ability to be intuitive and see more clearly by closing our eyes, and vice versa. Because that's the time that I believe that we're living in, a spiritual time whereby the only way you're going to be able to sense whether this woman is wearing an armor or whether she's for real is to close your eyes and go within and connect on a soul level. So I want to thank you so much. Nisha, you're totally in agreement there, nodding your head. What would you say as a parting final word that you'd like to leave our audience with this evening? Because this has been an amazing conversation, and I've loved the honesty. I can feel the energy that when people are listening to this, they're going to feel the realness. So what would be your parting comment? And then I'd like you to also give out your details in case people may want to get in contact with you.
I don't know. I feel like what I can say is it's just back to that whole stand in your truth. You know, if you are listening and you want to start your journey, just begin by standing in your truth, owning up to who you are, understanding that your situations and your life experiences don't have to define who you are now. And anything that is defining you can be changed. The things that you think about, your mindset, everything can be changed. And that's the beautiful thing about life. I think that these type of situations that we're in at the moment don't happen by accident as well. So if you are impressed to take action and move forward, then do it. Like, follow your spirit and do it. Don't hold back, do it, because it definitely would be God telling you it's time to move forward. Yes. So yeah, that's what I'd really say to anyone that's watching that might be impressed to move forward, you know.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That was so deep, in that it's about taking action, because if you don't take action, you're actually moving backwards. Yeah. Sharon.
Yeah, I would mirror a lot of what Nisha said, but I would also add that it's beautiful to see somebody truly open up and show themselves for who they are, and I feel that so many are living in fear of judgment, that they are afraid to do that. And I would say that it's a step-by-step process. So little by little, however you choose to do it. I mean, if you were to reach out to this group, for example, and you were to get some sort of awareness about how it's possible to begin to evolve, because you could be part way on your journey. You could be dabbling and wanting, but you may want some more because you're not fully evolved or whatever. But you can see a glimmer of what you would like to see within yourself. I would just say own that. I mean, what could happen? What can really happen? You can either evolve or you can stay stagnant, if you like, where you currently are. What's life about if not learning?
100%. And you know, as you were speaking, Sharon, I just got this vision. Nisha, wouldn't it be funny if now that we're out of lockdown, we were to put on an event, another relationship event where we met, and we put the people on the panel and we invite people out, and we now have those meaningful conversations? Wouldn't that be us coming full circle?
That would be amazing.
Because I think post-COVID-19, people are now ready to have those real, meaningful conversations, both men and women. And as I've said earlier on, if we don't take care of ourselves, ain't nobody gonna do it for us.
Absolutely.
And that's the thing to take note. So I want to thank you so much, Nisha. You've been, as usual, very modest. You haven't given out your details. It's cool. It's a safe space. You know, it's all love. So if
No,
people
so okay, so if you want to contact me by email, my email is nisha@nishataylorcoaching.com. Okay. The reason why I haven't given out my Insta is because I've been on a break. I've been on a sabbatical from Instagram. Because again, spirituality wise for me, I do what I have to do. So I'm not currently on there. But when I do come back, you just type in Nisha Taylor and you'll find me on Instagram.
Wow, that's so deep. And thank you for sharing that. And you know, I'm excited because there is a rise in the feminine energy, and I'm seeing sisters like yourself, but more recently Sharon and a few ladies, Beverly, Laura, and Suzette, to name a few, who have taken this mantle and are running with it. And so my vision is, and you know, Nisha, I kind of shared it with you many years ago, but it was still forming, where through our network of GPS graduates who have identified their particular niche, we are now creating an environment where we will connect with the people who are wanting and needing this kind of support, but then allowing our GPS graduates who specify in this area to support that person. You know, ain't no point me speaking to someone who is suffering from low self-esteem as a female if, Sharon, that's what you want to do, or if there's someone who is a GPS graduate and they specifically help women who, we have one person who her thing is about helping women or young women after, you know, going through teenage pregnancy. I don't know nothing about that. And so I mention that because watch this space, because I can see that it's not by my will, but by the will of the Most High. These people are emerging to create this space and this environment where we're taking care of our own. We're not reaching out to other people to say, you know, give us advice. No, we trust and have the faith to know that we can heal ourselves. So I say all of that to say that, Sharon, we're having that conversation as we are. Niche, we are to have revisit that conversation, because I believe that there are a number of people in our community that will definitely resonate with your story. And as this is emerging, you know, in the next few months, we're going to have this together. I definitely want to have a conversation with you about it and see how we can, because, you know, we've always been saying that at the right time, when the Most High sees it fit, then we will energies together. So I want to thank you both. Brother Michael was saying a fantastic discussion, heartfelt. So there you go. That's from a brother. And so I think we can wrap it up and leave it there. So ladies, thank you so much. It's been a privilege for me to be able to.
Thank you as well, Tony, for the invite.
It's great. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope you had a great evening. We'll be putting this up on YouTube and Facebook. And if you feel that it has carried a message, then feel free to share it. You know, we're out here wanting to make a difference within our community. We are making a difference in our community, and you get the opportunity to play a part in that as well. So for now, I want to say thank you. Good night. God bless. It's me, Tony DADA, your soul purpose coach, saying enough love.
Bye.